Hi everyone, welcome. We're here at Hang Time Smithsonian Transcription Center. We have some special guests with us today, including Smithsonian Secretary Wayne Clough, and also Ching Juan, who's behind my shoulder here. Let me give a little special welcome to all of our volunteers who are viewing the Hangout but are not a part of the active participation. We're so thankful to have you join us every single day to transcribe and review our documents, and we hope that today will be a really exciting opportunity to learn more about the way the Transcription Center fits into wider activities at the Smithsonian Institution and digitization pathways. So a couple of activity points here. If we can make sure that our microphones are muted unless we're speaking, and also have some headphones plugged in so we don't get a lot of reverb, that would be great. As I said, we'll be meeting today with Smithsonian Secretary Wayne Clough, talk about our experiences transcribing and some of the things we've discovered in our transcription activities, and then also learn about the ways the Transcription Center is part of these wider activities at the Smithsonian. And as I mentioned, we have Ching Juan with us. I'd like to just introduce her quickly because she plays a really important role in leading us to a successful Transcription Center experience every day. She's our project manager for the Transcription Center, and also is a member of the, as a branch manager of library and archives systems. And she leads a team that includes me and then a couple of developers, Mike Shaw, Andrew Gunther, and Richard Russell and Randy Arnold. And I just want to give them a shout out because the work they do every day is pretty amazing for us as well. Now I'd like to introduce Secretary Clough. In his 6 years as Secretary of the Smithsonian, he's provided tremendous leadership and taken us forward into what we like to call digital Smithsonian. He's been particularly supportive of the Transcription Center, and he specifically requested that we create this opportunity to talk today. And I just want to thank everyone for being here, and also Secretary Clough for being with us today. And hi, we have a couple of new members. Hi, Ann. If you could, in the top part of your screen, there's a little microphone. If you hover over the top part of your screen with a mouse, you'll see there's a microphone that you can mute. And I'm going to mute my microphone now and hand over to Secretary Clough.
Okay. Thank you.
Mute.
Got a new person joining us. Hello.
You are muted. Hello. I'm not up to the technology.
Well, I'm Wayne Clough, and I'm what they call the Secretary of the Smithsonian, which is sort of like.
It's nice to meet you.
It's a great place. We've got a number of people on the broadcast, which is great. And the first thing I want to do is to thank all of you for what you've been doing and joining with us in what is really a very interesting experiment that is working and working very well. And we hope that it will transport itself to many other institutions that need this kind of support. It's exciting for us and complicated for us because we have such incredibly diverse and large collections. We have about 138 million objects and scientific specimens, as we say, in our collections. And they range all the way from the very largest of something like the space shuttle to almost things as small as microorganisms. So, and we have massive archival materials as well as film and audio materials. So we're trying, really what we're seeking to do is to digitize as much of our work as we can so we can share what we have with people all over the world, as opposed to people having to come here and in many cases not being able to afford to do it. Plus, if we are able to digitize these appropriately, then people who are scholars or people who are enthusiasts and lifelong learners can, in essence, curate the materials for their own selves, and we think that's a very exciting thing. So I'm coming to you from a room in what's called the castle at the Smithsonian, because it looks like a castle, and it was built in 1855 by the first Secretary Joseph Henry. So it's an old building, but it's now being converted to a new building because we're able to reach people all over the world from this building. So it's a lovely day. It's a bit warm here in Washington, as it often is in August. I hope your weather is good. But really the message I want to leave with you, and then we can have an open discussion, is how much I appreciate what you've done. Because this has already had a dramatic impact on our ability to not only get our digital material properly documented, but also put it up so the public around the world can have access to these materials. It's really having a dramatic effect on people's joy, if you will, in learning and in understanding the natural world and in understanding the cultures that they live in. So we're very appreciative of that. I thought I might start by just asking everyone to identify themselves because you're all in different places. Who wants to start?
I'll start. I'm Vaughan. I'm known on the Smithsonian transcription site as Ambrosia, and I basically just do a lot of transcribing. Yeah. We're in Wellington, New Zealand, and this is my sister.
I'm Victoria, and Wellington, New Zealand. I work in the museum sector, so that was one of the reasons why I first started on it, because I was interested in seeing the new interface when it was still in beta, and I convinced my sister to give it a go, and she's been addicted ever since.
Have you ever done anything like this before?
Siobhan hasn't. I've played around with Wikipedia. I've looked at Trove in Australia and done some newspapers transcription for them. I pretty much, with my role in a museum, I'm the rights advisor at Te Papa, the Museum of New Zealand, Te Papa Tongarewa. I try and keep abreast of all of these types of platforms and things like that, so I give it a go, and then every so often I get a little bit addicted in my personal life because for some reason I can't seem to separate the two, and end up doing more for work for other institutions out of work, so yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. Thanks. And who would like to speak next?
I guess I will. I'm Anne Vaughan. Have I done this right? You must forgive me. This is my very first time using any kind of chat mechanism, and I'm not familiar with it. Can you hear me?
That's good. We hear you.
Okay. All right. I am retired from the World Bank, and I'm not traveling very much at the moment, so I heard about this, and since I think the Smithsonian is the best possible thing about living in Washington, and I could do something that would help, I thought it was fun to try. It was not only fun to try, but I think, as Ambrosia said, I think of her as Ambrosia now, I find it addictive.
What collections have you worked on so far?
I did some of the diaries of Henry's daughter, Joseph Henry's daughter. I did the Bakeland diaries, and I'm now busy doing Mexican amphibians. I know more about the sex life of bufo toads than I need to know.
That's great. But you know, the thing that's interesting to me is, of course, these diaries would never be seen without the work that you're doing. So the average person would never have a chance to see them.
And they'd be missing something because they're fascinating and a lot of fun.
Okay, and we have one other person for sure.
Hi, I'm Heidi Moses, and in my real life, I guess you could say, I am the archaeology collections manager for Fortress Louisbourg, which is a National Historic Site in Canada. I was on a layoff, and I noticed a tweet saying that the Smithsonian had transcription opportunities for volunteers, and I thought I'd like to do that. So I signed up, and about 10 minutes later I was transcribing, and I haven't really looked back since then.
What type of collections have you worked on?
In the Smithsonian's, I bounce around to everything. I'm interested in everything, so I've done some artists' letters, which are I find really interesting. I do the banknotes just because I can sit and watch television and do it really quickly. Right now I'm doing Doll's diary and some of Bakeland. I like to hop around and do lots of different things.
Well, that's the nice thing about the Smithsonian. We have a little bit of everything.
This is true. This is true. Someday I hope to get there.
Well, the banknotes is a very interesting collection because it was given to the Smithsonian by the Bureau of Engraving, and I believe the collection's 350,000 or so of those things. And at that time in our country's history, individual banks could issue banknotes that looked different from others. They had to follow a form, but you had, for example, the Bank of Ocilla or something in Georgia, which is where I live. And it's really an interesting thing because each one of those banknotes reflects the history of that little area. And so it's fascinating. I was there, and for that particular rapid capture project, which was fascinating. So they're hoping to finish the whole collection in about 4 months.
Yes, they're going to bring in a conveyor belt.
Right.
Cool. I'm waiting for more to transcribe.
Unless there's if I miss anybody, I think we got everybody. Well, the other thing that we're doing right now is we have another rapid capture project with our bumblebee collection. And we have 46,000 bumblebees. And each bumblebee has a tiny, tiny little tag associated with it saying who collected it, where it was collected, and what species it is. And so they're pulling these things out of their glass cases and digitizing one by one. And volunteers who love pollinators are helping us transcribe each one of those tags into metadata for the collections. Now, what do you want to do?
Some may be working. You might ask them if any are working on the bumblebees.
Oh, is anybody here working on bumblebees? Oh, we got a winner.
Yeah, we definitely are. Definitely.
Well, tell me about that experience.
Well, it was really, I found it quite interesting looking at it from how they've released the data. They started off with a set of 77, or quite a small set, and as we went on, we kept saying, oh, this box, it wasn't quite clear as to how they wanted it done, how they wanted it transcribed. Because we're the type of people we are,
Completists.
we want to put everything down, and there wasn't a box for everything. So it was a nice progression of working between us and also the people designing the system to get it to the point where we can put all the information actually on the page, and it's very easy for us to work out.
And that's one of the things I really wanted to express to you is the quality of your development team. They are phenomenal. Like the responsiveness of the transcription team is, can I just say, big shout out to them, because they're just brilliant. You send them an email, you say, hey, is there any possibility of you getting it, like, can we flip the image on the side? And they say, well, yes, we can do that within the next 24 hours. Or, well, we think that there's high priorities on the project. You go, oh, cool, yeah, that's all good. So they're really able to give you either what you want to be able to help you complete the project, or they tell you a really great reason why you can't have it right then because they've got higher priorities. And I've got to say, the comms is just great as well. They're so professional. I couldn't say enough good things about them.
Well, that is nice to hear. We'll pass that on, because the folks over here are so passionate about this, and because we're all doing this for the first time in some way, you realize we're just at the cusp of some sort of new thing that's happening, and you can't really predict what's going to happen. I just offering knowledge to people in this way is just going to be profound. And it'll change the way people learn and the way people interact, and again, connect people internationally as well. So it's exciting to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I was very curious about when you said the international connections. What are you able to draw on from other countries that we don't have in our own data? Do we share information? I know in England, for instance, they had a transcription project for all the Jeremy Bentham papers. I mean, do we share with them at all, or other countries doing similar things?
Other countries are doing similar things, right?
And our data are being shared.
Oh, our data, of course, yeah. Well,
Yes.
certainly everything that we're doing is put up on a public site, and our goal is to take everything that we do and put it up as quickly as we can so it has absolute public access from anybody in the world. We have operations at the Smithsonian, or activities in 130 countries. So we work all over the world, and we appreciate how the world is connected, and that we feel that we're part of the good, if you will, of American society, and that we have the best people that make us, and we have to share back, or should share back. And so it's a pretty profound ethic for us to do that. And we just had a meeting on that, as a matter of fact, and in essence established a policy that as soon as we digitize something, our goal is to, as quickly as possible, make sure it's available to the public. And everybody in the world should have access to it.
Secretary Clough, just wanted to share some of the questions that we've had from our volunteers, and lead in with this particular question. which relates to something that you've been speaking about, which is how the work with the Transcription Center is being used more widely at the Smithsonian, and how the volunteers fit into plans of a digital Smithsonian and wider digital volunteers.
Oh, that's a good question, and I attempted to answer some of these broad questions when I wrote a book recently. It's an ebook called The Best of Both Worlds, and so the title is meant to explain that digital is going to have a very positive impact on a physical visit to a museum, because you'll be able to learn more before you get there. Your experience will be enhanced by some knowledge-based tools when you're there, and you can continue to interact with the materials that you saw after you leave. But secondly, that we can reach people who perhaps today don't go to museums because they're intimidated by it, they may not expect to see themselves in the materials there, or in our case, they don't have the money to travel to Washington, D.C. I grew up in a small town in the state of Georgia, down south, and didn't have access to these cultural materials, and I've always felt that we should be as democratic about this as we could be, and that's part of what I see happening with these digital tools. And so I think it's an exciting opportunity to change the way museums work. It's a great and golden opportunity. And I mentioned my book not to sell it to you because it's free. It's free, and you can get it on Amazon. If you
I've read it. I read it last night.
Okay, if you don't like Amazon, come to our website and you get it. But what's interesting about that, the reason we did it as an ebook, was this whole thing is changing so fast. You know, as soon as you put words down on paper, I couldn't keep up with the changes as I was writing. I kept writing and rewriting because things change so fast, and it continues to do that. So I worry about that book after 2 or 3 months getting obsolete. So it's just hard to keep up with it. And I think the question was a very good one. In a way, we don't quite know where this is going, and that makes it exciting. And I think the point will be that those of us who are here doing these things help define the way it goes. And it's great to see all of you have. It's an interesting a museum background, it sounds like, or some background.
I don't. I'm the only one. I've just got a relation.
Well, when I came to the Smithsonian, I was a university educator, and I've learned a lot about museums since I've been here.
That's really wonderful that you say we don't know where we're going, but we're going there together rapidly. Vaughan and Heidi specifically have been really busy uncovering the hidden history of women in science at the Smithsonian. So I just wondered if you could speak a little more broadly to opportunities to identify women researchers and pioneers at the Smithsonian.
Well, that's a very good question, and I do think this idea of democratization allows you to tell the stories about people in a much bigger way. If you go back in history, as far as women in science, of course, you have Marie Curie, who won one of the very few people who won 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different fields. It's pretty remarkable, and she was denied an education as a young woman because men were the ones who got the education. She's an amazing story. Here at the Smithsonian, if you go back into the history of the institution, there were very few women who were in leadership positions because that's the way it was in those days. We do have Maria Mitchell's telescope at the Smithsonian, which we should do more in explaining what she was. She was the first well-known woman astronomer in the United States and discovered a comet, and she was brilliant, and she was the astronomer for the Vassar University, Vassar College, and we have her telescope. At the Smithsonian, there was a very famous woman who worked here for 50 years named Mary Rathbun, and she has something like, she was an expert on crustaceans, and she came up with a name for the blue crab, which is very famous in Chesapeake Bay, and wrote the book basically on the blue crab, which is a delicacy that people love to eat but is endangered. So Mary worked all these years. She has something like 20 species named after her by her colleagues in the field because she was so dedicated. She actually was so dedicated that when she realized the Smithsonian, her museum was hard up for money, she said, I don't need the money, take my salary and pay somebody else, but I'll continue to work for you. But she became the first division head in the Museum of Natural History. So she is a beautiful story, but it's a unique story. I'll tell you another example, though, of the kind of thing I think where this project could be important. I was recently at the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory, which is headquartered in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We have 900 people who work in astrophysics. We run observatories in Hawaii, Arizona, the South Pole, and in Chile. And we run satellites for NASA, for that matter. Well, they had a telescope there in Cambridge when it first got started back in the 1800s. And it took lots and lots of images, made lots and lots of images. Some of the first images of the lunar transit and the nebula around us. And the people who did that were women. And they made images with glass plates. There's 650,000 of these glass plates. And on each glass plate, I have two cats. But,
Assistant.
Glass plates, these women were called, oddly enough, computers. And there were about 20 of them. And they went through every glass plate and made a note as to where the nebulae were, where all the different Milky Way atoms were. And on every one of these glass plates are these wonderful notes. And those women themselves went on to become prominent astronomers. Now that's a beautiful story. But the plates are hard to were hard to do anything with because they're very delicate. Now we're digitizing each and every one of them. And so the story will come out about those women who spent all those years becoming really the experts on that technology. And the interesting thing that our folks tell me today is that the glass plates are being used more and more as they digitize them by present folks in astronomy because they can see things on those plates they can't see any other way.
Ching could give an update on that project.
Oh,
we're going to be posting
she's going to talk about that
images
project
of those
now.
plates.
Yep.
Yeah, just to let you know that we actually have made great progress on supporting this particular project because one of the things they say is that these images are very, very important to the current research. And however, there were no information specifically attached to the images themselves. There are 19 volumes of handwritten logbooks documenting the metadata of every single image. So now we're preparing to put them online, and the transcription can help us to get the metadata. And the hope is that once the data is transcribed, then we can build a database using those transcribed database data to drive these individual images so that the scientists around the world can benefit from those early images along with the metadata so that they can make sense.
And the key for me is that this allows us to tell the story of those 20 women who were hidden because they weren't division managers or out there, if you will, but they were doing this very critical work. And so that story's been hidden. Now you can tell the story of the great contribution that they made to science.
It reminds me of the stories of all the women I've come across in the rose cacti projects, where there are. It's very educational to me because, like you, I came to this Smithsonian transcribing thinking that it was mainly men who did science in the 1900s. It was men who did all the collecting of the plants.
Right.
But having done the rose cacti projects, there are so many more women in there than I had thought there would be. I thought it would just be all guys. So many in the 1900s going out and collecting in the back and beyond. I mean, they're remote places they're collecting these specimens from, and they're similar to those 20 women in that a lot of them don't have wiki pages, and yet they've got species named after them. So they've got lots of species named after, lots of plants named after them.
Yep.
And yet there's hardly any information on the internet, hardly any information other than in the handwritten notes from Rose in the herbarum. So yeah, I can't wait to get hold of the handwritten stuff on Nebula. I'll be there with bells on.
That's a wonderful segue into talking about the impact of what we're doing. And maybe Secretary Clough, you could explain how long you think this project might continue, or related projects, and future opportunities to collaborate around these kinds of activities at the Smithsonian?
Okay, very good, Megan. Well, that's an interesting question, because I think if you had asked me that question a year ago, I would have said it would never end. There's no way, because the digital process takes too long, it's too time-consuming, it's too costly. However, our rapid capture projects have gradually shown us that you can do these things much, much faster if you organize them around a process as opposed to just thinking about an image. And so take all the steps, because the curator's got to go get an object, bring it into the room, and so there's a process to do this. And we've gotten, I think, much better at this by thinking of it as a process. Now, we are also looking at the tools like conveyor belts for flat objects, and there are folks out there who are developing that technology that we will adapt to what we're doing. There are people who are working on full three-dimensional imaging that would use robotic process. And I will have to show you the little example of a three-dimensional image, and this is my friend. So can you see my friend?
Yes.
So that's me. That's called Little Wayne. So I'm the first secretary of the Smithsonian who's been 3D imaged. Now, it was not the most efficient process, but it was for me. All I had to do was stand in a cage, and they took a picture of me with 84 cameras simultaneously. And then it took about a day for them to print out my little friend. I haven't figured out what to do with him yet, but I do notice when I come in sometimes in the morning that my bookshelves are a little bit different than they were, and I don't know if he's escaping at night or if somebody is actually using him somewhere, but he shows up in a lot of selfies with people. But three-dimensional imaging is a huge advance in technology for iconic objects, because you can develop the file, and we're making those available for free. We have about 20 or 30 of these already of our iconic objects, like the Wright Flyer and some of these other objects. And you teachers can then download them, show them to the students. We give them a tool to rotate it and so forth. But then if you have a printer, you can print it out. And more and more common to print things out.
That was one of the reasons why I'm sticking with the Smithsonian. I've had experiences before with transcription where we weren't told it was going behind a paywall. Mm-hmm. So, which made me, when I found out, I bailed so quick. I mean, the reason I contribute my time for free is because I want to contribute to the world good, and I know I'm in safe hands with the Smithsonian because you guys are brilliant about being so open. So I just wanted to say that's one of the cool reasons I put my sister onto it, and one of the cool reasons I'm a real, hey, try out the Smithsonian Transcription Center to everybody I know. If you're feeling bored, get on there, is my pitch. And it's really because I know you guys are safe hands to have, to put time into. You'll use it well, and you'll distribute it well, and I'm really reassured by that.
That's good to hear. Now, when you guys are out at the pub having a little libation, and somebody asks what you've been doing, and you say you've been working for the Smithsonian, what do they think about that?
They're very impressed, and that's great. We get a lot of kudos for it. It's really good. I've been volunteering at the Smithsonian. It's a good brand to associate yourself with. Yeah, really good brand. How do you do that? You're not in Washington, D.C. Well, it's easy. There's this wonderful website you can go to.
Now tell me about how's things in Nova Scotia. And what do people think about your work with the Smithsonian, Heidi?
Oh, they kind of laugh at me a little bit. And I keep saying, come and join me. Sometimes I think they're curious, and they kind of go, oh my God, it's the Smithsonian. No, I couldn't do that. But I think in time we'll get a few more people in.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, my brother is involved in digitization at the university in Prince Edward Island, and I was trying to con him into doing some transcription, and he said, well, come transcribe for me. I said, no, I'm sorry, I'm busy with the Smithsonian.
Well, I'm afraid that people run from me when I tell them I'm doing this, because I pick on them all the time. I'm needing help with this German translation or transcription, or I'm needing help with something else, and I can't figure it out. So they say, can't you just sign on and do it? And they say, no. But I haven't been able to get a single convert. I apologize. I've tried hard.
What does your cat think about it?
My cat helps with everything.
What's the name?
Oh, it's Grigio. It just means gray lady in Italian. Anyway, I'm the aardvark, and I didn't know the ladies from Nova Scotia, her name on the transcription site.
She's under H. Moses.
Yeah.
Paige Moses. Okay, because I
Very
recognize-
original.
I recognize, you get to recognize names when people are working on the same project you do.
Yeah, you
Just
do.
like everybody, I'm curious about who they are.
Sorry, Anne, what was your handle again?
Aardvark.
Aardvark, right.
Yep.
I also want to just quickly recognize a couple of people who were unable to join us today, but are part of the community, so you'll see their names as well, and that includes Jeanette, so J.K.F. Gobin, who's a member, Heather Widmeyer, who does a lot of work in the botany template, I think it's H. Widmeyer is her name, Irv, who's a member as well, IBCL, CL2, all of these people, you see their names constantly in these projects, and we know that you all appreciate working with each other.
Yeah, you guys are our power players.
Do
Do you know the story of the Transcription Center and how it was created?
No.
Okay,
No.
so a little bit of background. The White House, the President Obama and his team had come up with this idea that there were all this brain power in places like Silicon Valley and so forth, and it never got back and never helped the U.S. government in any way. So they set up a program where people could come back and work here, usually for quite a reduced salary, for say 6 months or so, and bring some of their special knowledge to institutions. And the first year we didn't actually apply, but the second year we got very aggressive about it. Janet Abrams, come on over here and introduce you.
Hi.
So let me introduce Janet.
Hi there, y'all.
And Janet is, runs things out of my office, and she had been a White House fellow.
Hello.
So she worked with us to go in and you have to compete. And we won 3 out of the 40.
Yep.
That's an amazing number. And so these folks came in and started looking at our systems, and they said, well, gee, you need digital volunteers. And so they helped us develop the Transcription Center. Now, they've already gone back to their work, but this is one of the tremendous contributions that they made in while they were here.
Yes.
It's fantastically set up. It's very easy to use. It encourages you when you're a little nervous about starting. It's very, very good. Very well done.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to hear.
I want you to meet Sarah. Sarah, come here. Well, somebody else who's working in the room here. Sarah is works in our media program, and she is our master of social media. 5 years ago, we had 0 social media followers. Now we have about 5 million. So Sarah's been very busy.
I have.
Exactly.
I'll probably be in touch with a few of you, hopefully, when we send out the press release next week about the Transcription Center for its public launch, because I think reporters are going to be really interested in learning why you guys have dedicated so much of your time to helping us. It's really remarkable.
It's wonderful. And just to let y'all know that we've been operating in beta mode really for the past year. We launched in June of 2013, and next week, as Sarah mentioned, we're going to be doing more of an institution-level release and conversation with the media about the Transcription Center. But we know that, that there's been a lot of communicating about these projects by the individual museums or archives that hold these particular collection items. But next week we're going to do it at the institutional level. We're going to go big time.
So we can expect a lot more users, I think. It's pretty fun. I hope you guys are ready for the influx.
The Smithsonian is big on history, right? I mean, we do a lot in the history area. And everything that the Smithsonian does is recorded. So the fact that you guys are our first power users for the Transcription Center will be recorded for all of history.
Oh, no. No visibility.
You're helping us, you're co-creating this system with us. Yep. That's what's so striking. You're not just transcribing, you're helping us build this wonderful system.
Someday the great novel will be written.
Yeah.
Well,
great.
Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you, Secretary Clough, for speaking with us and sharing so much about
Thank you, Megan.
The digitization pathway and also wider activities happening at the Smithsonian and so much potential that lies ahead of us. And thank you, ladies, for being here, and those who are watching as well. Thank you for your time in transcribing and reviewing. And a little spoiler, be ready for a 7-day review challenge coming up. We'll be very excited to knock off some projects through that. Thanks again. Remember, if you have any questions or you have feedback or suggestions on how we can make transcribing better, you can get in touch with us. And hopefully we'll see you again soon for the next hangout.
Have a good weekend.
Everyone,
Nice to meet you. Bye.
Nice to meet you too. Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.